State of the City Address. So you get to put up with me for just a little bit here. Get this thing started. Working with technology here to see how well this works. But it's my privilege and honor to serve the citizens of Rock Island as mayor. I would like to start tonight by thanking all the city employees, elected officials, and 140 citizens representing 25 various boards and commissions that help us set the direction of the city. The city has a number of success stories in 2019. We had many new commercial businesses move to Rock Island. Existing businesses expand their current location. This was throughout the city, from our downtown area to southwest Rock Island to Black Hawk Road corridor, resulting in over $30 million in capital investment by private companies. These projects have added hundreds of jobs this year, with more to come in the future. However, we have not had any success filling the Watchtower site on 11th Street. We are finding that brick-and-mortar retail growth is slow, and that location does not have the traffic or demographics that most retail providers are looking for. The city may have to start looking at opportunities other than retail for this site. But we will continue to work diligently to find the best options for that location. One area where we have seen growth and believe there's more opportunity to develop is light and medium industrial. We will continue trying to attract retail to provide goods and services that are not currently available in Rock Island. Current property owners continue to invest in buildings by using city's facade program along with their own to update and upgrade the outsides of their buildings. Our inspections department has been very busy making sure both the new construction and existing buildings meet code and are safe. Our planning and zoning divisions have initiated a lot of first-time projects to lead us into the future. They applied for the National Register of Historic Places in our downtown district and worked on zoning and ordinance for the new cannabis laws, among many other projects. Our housing market has still continued to be steady. Revenue for the city has been flat for the past several years. A significant source of our revenue is state sales tax and state income tax, but several years ago, the state took a good portion of this away and has since reinstated only a portion of that. Even with the $30 million of private capital investment, it takes time before the city sees the revenue. We've found it necessary to give some incentives to make these projects happen, and it could be several years before we see the total impact of the investment. Another source of our revenue is through the state gaming tax. That, too, has declined over the last several years, with the addition of video gaming now allowed in bars and restaurants in Illinois, and the renovation of the 2 casinos on the Iowa side of the river. We've had some success in cutting expenses over the last several years, partially with personnel reductions, but unfortunately expenses are still going up faster than our revenue. We still need to remember that Mother Nature was hard on us in 2019. We had record-breaking floods this past summer, not only in the river levels, but also in the number of floods and the duration of the floods. During the winter months, we endured many snow events and needed to purchase more salt and spent more labor than previous years. When we started the budgeting process 3 years ago, we started with a $5.3 million deficit. We balanced the budget with only using a small part of the reserves. 2 years ago, we started with a $3.6 million deficit and got that close to a balanced budget. This year, we started with a $2.9 million deficit and got close to a balanced budget. This is a good indication that most of the expense cuts that were made each year help balance the budget over the long term. We've been able to maintain between an 80 and 90-day reserve for our cash balance, which is best practices. We accomplished some major projects and leveraged state and federal dollars in 2019. A good example of this would be resurfacing of 38th Street from Blackhawk Road all the way down to 7th Avenue and 18th Avenue from 17th Street all the way to Moline Border. With both of these projects were 80% funded with federal dollars. We received over $1 million from HUD that qualified for a number of CDBG projects. We installed LED street lights throughout the city, thereby improving energy efficiency. One of the biggest financial burdens the city has and will continue to have is the police and fire pensions. These pensions make up a very large portion of the general fund dollars. State law requires that pensions must be 90% funded by the year 2041. In order for this to happen, substantial annual payments are made, and those payments increase significantly every year. This is an earned benefit that the employees deserve and have also contributed to. A promise made should be a promise kept. But the state made these promises, not the city, yet the city has to pay the tab. New legislation, which combines all the police funds together and the fire funds together over the next 2.5 years, will hopefully provide some relief. The city has several organized labor agreements, and the employees in these groups and the city have agreed to hold wage increases within reason for the next several years. Remember that personnel costs are more than 70% of the overall general fund. An 8% property tax increase was considered for 2020, but we were able to get that down to an estimated 3.93% increase in the tax rate. This happened because the city manager and the directors listened to the city council and the comments from the citizens and committed to not to replacing some open positions and delaying others. The city has reduced the size of its workforce after the last several years due to becoming more efficient without reducing core services, though. The city also has some social responsibilities, such as maintaining its own properties and offering the citizens amenities such as services for quality of living. Our library, at no expense to the taxpayers, was able to add a mobile library called Library to Go. They saw an increase of 35% in attendance in the programming and events. 160,000 people visited the Rock Island Public Libraries this year. The fire department was one of 2 agencies to receive a Life Safety Award at the Illinois Fire Safety Alliance banquet, and they were recognized as a 5-star fire safety community by the Northern Illinois Fire Sprinkler Advisory Board. The Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center reached over 2,200 youth with their after-school and summer day camp programs, served over 100 Rock Island County families with counseling and case management, and touched the lives of over 20,000 people in a variety of ways through their programs. Here's a fun little interesting fact that I had some fun with this year. 3 King Center children in the after-school program qualified for the state robotics competition. And they were just 3 going against teams of 10, a number of teams. I went off script earlier today. I'm not going to do it. Maybe come back to it because my technology locked up last time, but some other interesting thoughts with that. Our Parks and Recreation Department completed Phase 2 of the Douglas Park remodel and started Phase 3 to develop a youth football field and multi-sports field. Over $1 million in grants and private dollars have been raised for this project. Parks, along with Martin Luther King Center, expanded the First Tee program at the Highland Springs Golf Course, which extended the program, helping 225 youth. Now, let's not forget that the NFL draft was televised live across the country from Rock Island, Illinois, for the first time ever. The NFL was so impressed with our enthusiasm, they allowed us to announce 4 draft picks instead of just the one that was originally promised. Our Community Economic Development Department was granted, or did grant out, $815,000 from HUD dollars to fund different projects, including neighborhood housing programs, public safety, Douglas Park, sidewalk improvements around the schools, and security cameras throughout the city. The city has also seen a 10% overall decrease in crime under the Part 1 of the Uniform Crime Reporting System. 10% decrease. 3 new council members were seated in 2019. Welcome. And we continued Unplugged series. In the 3rd session, citizens could ask the city council members questions directly, and the council could learn the citizens' thoughts and concerns. The city continues to be transparent and open to the public. A couple quick updates on a few of the projects for 2020. The city is having an engineering firm look at the efficiencies of the equipment in all the buildings to see if the cost savings could be had more efficient, like LED lighting, solar panels, new boilers, new compressors, the list goes on, as we heard earlier. We also are doing a needs assessment in specific parts of the city to evaluate what improvements could be made in these areas for a better quality of life. This assessment is partly funded by the John Deere Foundation. Also, our new $20 million water filtration plant just started pumping water and will be completing this project during the 2nd quarter of 2020, replacing our 109-year-old water plant. Got our money out of that one. With the new cannabis law in place, the city hopes to have a dispensary located in the city and to see some new revenue. The city has also initiated the Census Committee to make sure that all citizens in the city of Rock Island are recognized and counted. This could also help the city get more state and federal funding in the future. In closing, our city is on solid financial ground. We have a number of projects scheduled for 2020 that will increase revenue and reduce expenses. Our vision for 2020 is focused on the future, and this town rocks. So thank you very much for your attention. I will go back and add just real quick is that those 3 students, those 3 children at Martin Luther King Center, I went down and visited with them and their family. And Jerry will attest to this, he was there, but the enthusiasm that they had was just, it was not seen anywhere. You know, they talked and they played well as a team. It was amazing how they did the tag team, and one person would help come up with the idea, and another person would help design the layout, and another one would work with the robotics. And they all worked together and shared the responsibility. Nobody got selfish or anything else. It was just a neat team, collaborative deal with creative thinking. And it was also neat is to see their family standing behind them and endorsing it and pushing it and really helping with that enthusiasm. You know, if people are familiar with STEM programs, or STEAM as some will even call it, but science, technology, engineering, and math, it had that written all over it. Whether it was intended that or not, I don't know. But they competed over at the Putnam Museum with, I want to say hundreds of teams. There was lots of teams. That place was packed for several days with these teams that a lot of them had 8, 10 kids on working these things out. And here's 3 of them that now get to go on to state and compete. Only the top 10 teams. What a great story. I mean, I can't say enough about it. It's small. Some might say, oh, that's a small issue in the whole scheme of the city. But I'll tell you, when you can see some lives like that be lightened up, it's well worth it. It's well worth it. So thank you very much. Thanks, City Council and the employees for working so hard in 2019, and we look for a great 2020.